Skink, No Surrender by Hiaasen, Chapter 11. My stepfather isn't an outdoorsman is a kind understatement. If Trent hits a golf ball into the woods, he won't go looking for it because he's basically terrified of nature. Snakes, spiders, ants, lizards, moths, bats, squirrels, opossums. If it doesn't wear shoes, Trent's afraid of it. One time, on the 16th fairway of the golf course, the man actually ran from a crow. This I witnessed with my own eyes. But it's not like he's a total wimp. I remember the afternoon he knocked out a drunk tourist who said something crude to my mother. Trent's a city person, that's all. He grew up in downtown Chicago, a place where there isn't much wildlife except for pigeons. Moving to a small beach town in rural Florida was a huge change, and he's still adjusting. I get that. His Bigfoot fixation is what made me think of him while the governor and I gathered kindling for a campfire. The thick timber along the Chattahoochee would be a perfect location for the TV Sasquatch hunters to do an episode of their reality show. One glimpse of Skink, and those goofballs would wet their pants. It would be a YouTube classic. When I asked Skink if he'd ever been mistaken for a Bigfoot, he said, "The only thing I get mistaken for is a nutcase." No comment from me. Soon after we got the flames going, he fell into a deep and sudden sleep. Curled up in the shape of a comma, he didn't look much like a Sasquatch. After the sun went down, I felt hungry, but I didn't try to wake him until he started having one of those snarling nightmares. The sounds coming from his throat made the hair on my arms stand up. If online Talbot was near enough to hear the growls, he'd think there was a rabid panther roaming the forest. Probably haul up the anchor on that houseboat and take off full speed with Mally. I was afraid to stand too close, so I used the 9-iron to jostle Skink. Gradually his sound shrank to soft cries, like a lost kitten would make. I knelt down, spoke his name firmly, and shook him by the shoulders. His live eye opened as slowly as a clam. "It's okay," I said. "You're having another bad dream." "Are you in it?" "No, I'm real." "You sure?" "Positive. It's me, Richard. Remember?" He sat up, snatched the front of my shirt, and yanked me closer for inspection. "Well, all right," he said, and let go. His face and neck were dripping sweat. Hanging from his beard were a pair of June bugs, which he flicked into the shadows. "Let's make dinner," I suggested. "Before we move forward, one item of business." "What?" "I want to hear your terrible secret," he said. "This hideous crime you say you committed, the one your cousin threatens to blackmail you with." Out of nowhere, the man goes from barely recognizing me to full-on interrogation mode. "It's called full disclosure," he said. "But there's lots of your secrets I don't know." "You know the most important one," Skink said. "You know who I am." "I'm talking about bad stuff." "You'll feel better after you tell me." "No, I'm pretty sure I'll feel like crap." "Listen up. You need to clear your head before we make our big hero move tomorrow." My head is clear, totally. Talking about St. Augustine was the last thing I wanted to do. "Let me go take those fish off the stringer," I said. He grabbed my ankle. "You will not." The strength of his grip was unbelievable. I mean, for an old dude, he could have snapped my lower leg like a chopstick if he wanted to, and that's no lie. "Tell me the heaviest thing you've done in your life," I said, "and I'll tell you what I did." "Deal." "You go first." "All right, Richard." He released my ankle. Using the 9-iron, he levered himself to his feet. "You ready?" he asked. "Any time." But I was so not ready. My jaw hung open while Skink told his story. The craziest rumors about him on Wikipedia didn't come close to what he told me that night. I'd write it in these pages, except I promised him I'd never tell a soul. I owe the man big time. Always will. A life such as mine is a treacherous path. These were bad people, son. That was the sum of his explanation. He wore a calm expression as he poked the blade of the golf club into the campfire, sparking embers. "Your turn," he said to me. "Right. Enough with the drama. Let's hear what you did." "I stole something." "Was it cash money?" "No way. But I walked into a store and took something I didn't pay for." The governor grunted. "Shoplifting? This is why you're tormenting yourself?" "It wasn't like stealing a pack of gum." "So what's your big score? Diamonds? A Rolex watch?" "It was a skateboard," I said. "Just the deck, not the wheels and trucks." He rubbed his brow. "Basically, a piece of plywood." "Maple. And the price was almost $200. "Why'd you take it?" he asked. "Because I was being an idiot. Mom wouldn't get it from me even though she knew I'd pay her back." At the time, I was working 3 afternoons a week for a guy who owned a mobile car washing service. He stayed busy on the lower beach road. Some tourists get weird about having salty air touch the paint on their cars, and they're happy to fork out $25 for a wash job. My cut was $8, 9 for SUVs plus tips. "Son, why'd you want that particular skateboard so bad?" "Because it was exactly like the one my father had." "The one he was riding the day he died?" "Yup," I said. "An awfully painful reminder for your mother." "I guess." Skink was right. That's why she wouldn't buy the board for me. Seeing it made her sad. Mally was with me that day in the surf shop. She pretended like she was choking to death on a Jolly Rancher, and the guys who worked there all ran over to help. I picked up the board and walked out. Nobody noticed. My cousin had come along with us on the trip to St. Augustine, where we were meeting my brothers. She let me put the stolen deck in her beach bag so Mom wouldn't see it on the ride home. As I recounted the story, I was biting through my lower lip. Didn't feel a thing. I told the governor the skateboard was still in my bedroom, hidden in a place my mother would never think to look. "Let me guess," he said. "It's in the box springs of your bed." "How'd you know?" "I was your age once, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth." After a couple weeks, I had enough money to pay back the shop, but I never did. Guess I was too ashamed. See, the owner was friends with Dad. He came to the funeral and everything. "He probably would have given you the board for free." "Yeah, I was an idiot, like I said." "It's a vintage birdhouse board with sweet Rasta graphics. They don't make that model anymore, and even online they're hard to find. The one my father was riding when he crashed into the UPS truck got run over and split to pieces by the ambulance. I salvaged the wheels and trucks, which I later attached to the deck that I'd lifted from the shop." "You ever ride it?" Skink asked. "Never once." "Understandable." "So now you know." I expected him to shrug off the whole thing and say what I'd done was no big deal, crime-wise, but that wasn't his reaction. "Next time you're in St. Augustine, do what's right," he said. "Go back to that shop and pay the gentleman for his merchandise. This isn't just a piece of grandfatherly advice, Richard. It's a moral instruction." "Okay, I promise." "Guilt is a bear. You'll feel liberated afterwards, he assured me. Now, let's eat while we've still got a fire to cook on. Go fetch the bass. A soft drizzle had begun, and the storm was rumbling towards us from the south off the Gulf. I hurried down to the river where we'd beached the canoe, only to find that the canoe had moved. Was still moving, actually, away from shore, nosing steadily downstream. An empty vessel departing on a straight course as if steered by a ghost, which I didn't believe in. Still don't. The most likely explanation was a tricky gust of wind or a rogue current. After pulling off my sneakers and emptying my pockets, I was ready to jump in after the runaway canoe. That's when Skink appeared at my side. All he said was, "My fault, son." Well, that and a curse word. Bottom line, don't leave a stringer of fish dangling too long in the river, especially if the river hosts a hungry population of alligators. The one that was swimming off with our dinner and towing our canoe briefly revealed himself with a boiling swish of a thick armored tail. Definitely not a lazy golf course gator. Immediately, I scrapped my plan to dive in the water. Watching the canoe disappear around the bend made me feel useless and totally frustrated. It was the worst kind of luck at the worst possible time. If the gator made a fast dive with the bass in its jaws, either the stringer would snap or the canoe would flip. Possibly both. "What do we do now?" I said gloomily. "How will we reach Mally?" "I've got this," he brushed past me. "Stay here and mind the camp." Leg splint and all, he hobbled straight in the Choctawhatchee. "Are you insane? That's a major gator out there," I yelled. Nature never deceives us. It's always we who deceive ourselves. "What in the world are you talking about?" "It's from a novel by Rousseau," Skink called back, neck deep in the flow. "He was the son of a Swiss watchmaker. Swear to God, you should Google him on your computer. You should goggle him on your computer." "It's Google. Now get out of the water before you get bit." I seriously doubted that Rousseau, whoever he was, had been writing about carnivorous river reptiles. "I'll be returning shortly," the governor declared, and with a splash, he went under. A series of fat bubbles appeared, trailing down current. Any moment, I expected his hairy, deep-lined face to pop up for air among the raindrops, but it didn't. A jagged spear of lightning sliced the darkness, and in that ultraviolet moment, I could see how completely alone I was. The wind began swirling as the rain fell harder. Our small fire smoldered and hissed. I put on my shoes, wrapped a sleeping bag around my body, trying to stay dry. On the ground lay the governor's lame shower cap, which looked like something my 86-year-old great-aunt would wear. I picked it up and fitted it on my head. The downpour went on for a long, depressing time. I wasn't hungry anymore. Thunder shivered the treetops. Our camp turned to puddles and red muck. I waited and waited, never once shut my eyes, all night. At daybreak, there was still no skink and still no canoe, just me and the dark river rising.